Good afternoon, information processing. So this is another demonstration video. This one's about data analysis, and I'm going to go through and show you the first set of data from the task and talk about how to prepare data in this video. So if you take a look, you'll notice that there are three tabs here. This is for Regina climate data. And this first tab, if you look down at the bottom, you'll see where it says Regina 1961 to 1990. So this takes 30 years of data and it combines it and finds averages and stuff like that. And you can get this data from the Government of Canada. This is from Environment Canada. This right here is when you first load the data or first download it, what it looks like. And so also because this is the oldest set of data, it doesn't have as many things that they were measuring. So you'll notice that there's some things that aren't in this list that are in our newer set of data. Then we have the next 30 years, so jumping forward 10 years to 1971 to 2000, so that's our next tab. You'll again see it looks very similar when it first downloads, but it's a longer list of things because they started measuring things like humidex and wind chill and stuff that they weren't measuring in the 1960s, at least not in Regina. And then we go to our last tab, and this is not what it looks like when it's downloaded, but this is what it looks like after I have cleaned the data up to make it a little bit easier to work with. Now, you'll notice that at the top you have a nice header bar. As I scroll down, you'll notice that that header stays in place. So the January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and then the year totals. That all just stays there. You'll also see that I've given colored headings in the data so that you can see where one set of data ends and the next set of data begins, whereas if you look in here, you still have those headings there, but they're not as obvious. You have to really be looking for them to notice them. Where's the next one? Right there, I think. And so when you're first downloading a set of data or first getting a set of data, your first task of data analysis is to clean it up to get it usable. So I'm going to go through and talk about how to do that. I'm going to demonstrate how to do that, and then the file that you will get will have this one cleaned up tab plus two tabs that need to be still cleaned up, and you'll go through that process. So the first thing you'll notice is that mine starts right on row 1. So let's go look at the 1971 to 2000 data here. And you'll notice that this doesn't start until row 15. So all of this other stuff here is just talking, it's important information. It's just not important to what we're looking for. It's talking about like where the station that recorded the data is, like where's its latitude, its longitude, its elevation, and that stuff we're not going to need. The other thing you'll notice is that some of this information looks like it cuts off and it doesn't really fit. And so you could like expand these rows to fit your different pieces of data. But you don't want to have to go through and do that one row at a time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our whole data sheet. And you do that by going up and clicking on this upper corner. Then you're going to go between column A and column B. And you're going to just put your mouse over there and it becomes this little double arrow. And you're going to go ahead and just double click. And what'll happen is the rows will automatically expand to be as wide as the information is in the row. Now you'll notice that this first row is really, really wide, but most of the information isn't, but it's because this one line on cell 9 is really long that it has expanded this wide. And so we'll adjust that in a moment. But first of all of this stuff from line 13 to row 2. We don't really need it, so I'm going to click on row 13. I'm going to hold down the shift button and click on row 2. That highlights all those, and then I'm going to right click. Now if you're using a Chromebook, that's a double click. If you're using a trackpad, it's a double click. If you're using a mouse, it's a right click. And so what I'm just going to say is delete rows 2 to 13. They vanish. I also, I guess I could have done 2 to 14. I don't need this one. So I'm going to delete that row as well. Now this title here, I'm just going to highlight it. And if you click on Control X on your keyboard, what that does is it tells it to copy the information, but to copy it in a way that's been cut out so that when you paste it somewhere else, it'll actually move it instead of making a copy of it. I'm just going to click on the cell below it and hit Control V. And you'll see that it just moved it down. Now I can delete this unneeded row here. Okay, so that's a little bit better, but this is still really wide. I'm going to try just going, now that I don't have the full sheet selected, I'm just going to try that trick between cell A and cell B again. Double click. Narrowed up quite a bit more, so I think that's better. Now, already this information's a lot better, but it's still not as easy to read as this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to use some highlighting and some colors to make our data easier to process. So the first thing is if you click on a number, it actually selects that whole row. Same as if you ever select on a letter, it'll select the whole column. So I just want everything in this row. I'm going to just give it a background color of blue. Now I can't actually read my font then though, so I'm going to click on the letter A. I'm going to change that to white. There we go. That's a nice little header. You can read it. The other thing though is I want my words all centered, and I kind of want these all to be the same size here. I wonder if I can do a little adjustment there. No. Oh yeah, if I just double clicked on there, you can see that they all adjusted. And they're no longer weirdly different sizes, because the reason why they had been those different sizes originally was because of the data that was in the cells above them that got deleted. So again, to do that, I just selected column B, held down Shift, selected column O, and then just put my mouse in between any of the two letters until it became that double arrow. And then I just double clicked and it automatically adjusted the width. I do think that I'm going to select the whole sheet though, and I'm going to tell it to put the writing in the center of each cell. So this is called center justification. There we go. Well, column A, because it's the data, we'll actually make it left justification or right justification so that it comes up next to here. And we're also going to put a border around it so that you can see kind of you have that barrier line between here. So here you have your heading, and here you actually start to have your data. For this, the temperature, this is like a title. So I'm going to take and select this. So again, I just selected cell A2, by clicking on it, held down Shift, clicked on O2, and then I'm going to give this a color. Now on my spreadsheet for temperature, I used orange. You can use whatever you want. To make the heading stand out, I'm going to use, you have kind of these solid colors at the top, and then you have various levels of fadedness below them. So I'm going to always use the solid ones for headings, and then for other rows I'll use these faded ones, and I'll explain what I intend to do there. On this one, because this is all about temperature, I want to stay with the theme color I have here, which is orange. But it's easy as you're going across, when you see daily average, for your eye to just drop a line. Now, on the first line, it's not so bad because you have that big bold color above you. But if you're looking at daily minimum or maximum and you're trying to read across, your eye can get lost and you can start to go up or down a row. And so to help with that, what we do is this alternating color, and you'll see this in a lot of tables. And so I'm going to select cell A3 and select cell O3. And I'm going to go and fill it again, but instead of filling it with the dark color, I'm going to go to the lightest version of that below it. And then I'm going to leave the next line blank. And then I'm just going to do that again. So cell A5 to O5. And you get this alternating pattern. And it makes it a little bit easier for your eye to go across. You just have to pay attention to, as long as you're in that same data set. Now here, precipitation is like a new whole heading. So everything that has to do with temperature, I'll leave orange. Everything to do with precipitation, I think on my other sheet I did it as blue. Let's just check. Yeah, I did everything with precipitation blue. So rainfall, snowfall, all that kind of stuff. So I'll make that blue then. Now, going across like this is a little bit time consuming. So once I actually have my first two rows the way I want them, what I can do is if I select cell here A11, sorry, A12, and I go down and hold down shift and go to O13, I've now selected these two rows and they're painted or they're colored the way I want them. And you'll see this little paintbrush. This is called a format painter or paint format. Depending on if you're in Google Sheets, it's paint format. If you're in Excel, it's paint formatter, I believe. And you just click on it. And now I'm going to highlight. You can do this by clicking and just dragging without letting go of the mouse button. Or if you have a trackpad, clicking with one finger and dragging with the other finger. And I want everything that has to do with precipitation. So I'm going to look down. You can see this is daily rainfall, extreme precipitation, snow depths. Here we start the next thing, days with maximum temperature. So we don't want that. So I'm just going to go down to here. I'm going to let go. And look at that, just like magic, all of the lines got that alternating pattern. So what happened was it took the pattern of the color and it copied the pattern. It didn't copy the information in the cells. Those all stayed. So you didn't lose any data. It just changed how it looked. Now, the other thing that'll be useful is if we just put a little bit of a border around this, it'll be a little bit easier to see that it's one set of data. The color gives it away pretty well, but a border would be helpful as well. So I'm going to go from cell A3 again, then just click Shift and click on O10. And I'm going to go up to this border here. And you have different options. You can do all borders. Now, I think that actually makes it harder to read because the lines start to interfere with going sideways. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. But I do think an outside border helps. And you can change the color. If you wanted to stick with your orange theme, you could. I just stuck with black for my borders. Kind of curious what orange would look like on this one though, so I'm going to give that a try. And you can change your thickness. And for an outside border, I like to have a strong visual border because it gives your eye a boundary of where to stop. So I'm going to go to the level 3 line here. And then I'm just going to click on only the outside border. And you'll see there we get a nice thick line around there. Kind of like the orange actually. I might stick with that. Yeah, let's take a look and compare it to the black. Black's okay too. Anyway, that'll be your own personal preference. Try this one with the blue. I didn't do the heading in the border. If I was doing the color, I actually might do the heading in the border. Let's do that and see what that looks like. I had originally left the heading out of the border, and the reason for that was so that I could see what the heading was and tell it apart from the data. But I could be convinced a different way. Nope. Actually, I remember why I did it the other way. I'm going to hit Control Control-Z there. If I put the heading, if I include my heading inside my border, then when the two borders overlap, one of them goes over top of the other and they cancel out. Now, if they were black, that wouldn't actually matter, but if they're colored, then it would matter. So I'm going to leave them like that. All right, so that's how you clean up the data. That's step one of the data. You're going to have to clean up all of this data. You'll also have to clean up all of this data. When you get near the bottom, actually, nope, the 1971 doesn't have the frost data. Let's see, the 1961, does it have the frost data? No. So you don't actually have to worry about it. 1981, you'll see when you get to the bottom, suddenly they have a skinnier set where it doesn't go all the way across, and so I just did it skinnier. You won't have to worry about that then. Also, I tried to be consistent with my color coding. So anything that had to do with temperature, so temperature, days with maximum temperature, minimum temperature, I tried to keep those things always orange. And that just gives you a visual connection when you're looking at the data to say these things are somehow related. And so it makes it easier when you're quickly looking for data. Degree days, so days about temperature. Humidex, again, humidex is talking about temperature. Wind chill, you're talking about temperature. So then precipitation, I did always blue. You'll notice it's, oh, actually I changed the blue here. I should fix that. I'd forgotten that I did that later on because I decided I liked the other blue better. I just had switched over to that blue there. Okay. And so, again, you don't have to use the same colors I did. But I would say that you should be consistent. So precipitation, days with rainfall, days with snowfall, those are all things to do with precipitation. Precipitation, days with snow depth. Oops, sorry about that. Going down here, you can see later on we get to humidity. That's a precipitation. Well, it's related to moisture in the air, so I kept it as a precipitation thing. And then some of my other colors for wind, I just went with a different color because it wasn't precipitation or temperature, so I went with pink. Evaporation, I went with green. Again, you can do what you want. Sunshine, yellow, it was sunny. And so then other things that had to do with sunshine, like visibility hours or cloud amounts, I also went with yellow. So that is part one of the video series. I'm going to hit stop recording here. And this is about cleaning up your data.